Throughout the annals of human history, it is difficult to identify a figure who has commanded as much universal admiration and enduring respect as the Hebrew prophet Moses. Unlike many historical icons whose influence wanes with the passing of eras, Moses' fame has followed a trajectory of constant growth. The number of people who revere his memory has steadily increased over millennia, transcending cultural and religious boundaries. To understand the man behind the myth, we must look to the 13th century BC, which, in all probability, marks his era of glory. Historians and chronologists generally anchor Moses' life to this period by examining the reign of Pharaoh Ramses II. Widely considered by scholars and the public alike to be the pharaoh of the biblical Exodus, Ramses II's death is dated to the year 1237 BC. This historical bookmark allows us to contextualize the life of Moses within the geopolitical realities of ancient Egypt. During his actual lifetime, as described in the narratives of the Book of Exodus, Moses was certainly a leader, yet his influence was initially limited. There were indeed many Jews who adhered to his political ideas and followed his guidance, but he was a controversial figure even among his own people. However, the passage of time solidified his status. Within 5 centuries of his death, he was no longer just a political leader, but was venerated by the entirety of the Jewish people. This veneration did not stop at the borders of Judaism. By approximately 500 AD, the fame and reputation of Moses had migrated alongside the spread of Christianity, permeating the cultures of Europe. A mere century later, a new chapter in his legacy began when the Prophet Muhammad recognized Moses as a true and great prophet. Consequently, as Islam expanded its reach, Moses became a deeply admired figure across the vast Muslim world, respected even within Egypt, the land of his ancient adversaries. Today, roughly 32 centuries after he lived, Moses occupies a unique position. He is honored simultaneously by Jews, Christians, and Muslims. Furthermore, his impact is so profound that he commands respect even from many agnostics who view him as a titan of history rather than a divine messenger. Thanks to the reach of modern global communications, it is arguably true that Moses is better known in the contemporary era than he was at any previous point in history. Despite this unparalleled renown, the historian faces a paradox. Reliable, verifiable information regarding the actual life of Moses is frustratingly scarce. The scarcity of concrete data has led to various speculations. One particularly intriguing theory, though it remains unaccepted by the majority of specialists, posits that Moses may have been of Egyptian origin rather than Hebrew. Proponents of this view point to etymology, noting that his name appears to be of Egyptian provenance. The word Moses essentially means son, a linguistic root found in the names of several celebrated pharaohs, such as Thutmose or Ramses. Furthermore, the accounts provided in the Old Testament, which serve as our primary source, present significant challenges for the historian. These narratives can barely be accepted as strictly historical records because they are inextricably interact with the supernatural. They involve a vast number of miracles that defy natural explanation. Episodes such as the burning bush that is not consumed by fire, or the moment Moses transforms his staff into a snake, are, in essence, miraculous in nature and difficult to analyze through a secular historical lens. Additionally, the chronology poses logistical questions. Only a highly credulous observer would readily accept that Moses, who was already 80 years old at the time of the Exodus, possessed the physical vigor to lead the Jewish people on an arduous journey through the harsh desert for 40 years. Historians and readers alike are left with a lingering regret we would surely have preferred to know exactly what the real Moses achieved before his biography was buried under an avalanche of legends. In an attempt to reconcile these legends with reality, many people have tried to provide natural, scientific interpretations for the biblical accounts, such as the 10 plagues or the parting of the Red Sea. However, there is no doubt that the majority of the stories about Moses found in the Old Testament are legendary in structure, possessing clear analogues in other ancient mythologies. A striking example of this mythological borrowing is the story of Moses in the Bullrushes. This narrative bears an undeniable and striking resemblance to a much older Babylonian legend concerning Sargon of Akkad, a great king who reigned approximately between 2360 and 2305 BC. The parallels suggest that the biblical authors may have utilized existing literary tropes to highlight Moses' greatness. Despite the fog of legend, general consensus attributes three major concrete achievements to Moses. First, he is identified as the seminal political figure who led the Jews in the Exodus from Egypt. While the details may be embellished, at least in this regard, it is historically clear that Moses deserves the credit for this massive migration and liberation event. Second, Moses is the reputed author of the first 5 books of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. These texts are often collectively termed the 5 books of Moses and constitute the Jewish Torah. Within these books lies the Mosaic Code, a comprehensive set of laws that governed the conduct of the Jewish people throughout biblical times. This legal corpus includes the world-famous 10 Commandments. Considering the enormous influence exerted by the Torah as a whole, and the 10 Commandments in particular, on Western civilization and ethics, their author would certainly deserve to be considered one of the most influential personalities in human history. However, modern scholarship adds a layer of complexity to this achievement. The majority of biblical specialists have agreed that Moses was not the sole author of these books. Textual analysis suggests they were written by multiple authors over centuries, and the greater part of the material did not take written form until a considerable time interval had passed after Moses' death. While it is possible, even likely, that Moses played a role in organizing existing Hebrew traditions or formulating early Jewish legislation, we have no possibility of accurately estimating the extent of his personal contribution to the text we have today. Third, and perhaps most significantly, many people consider Moses to be the founder of Jewish monotheism. In a strict historical sense, there is no basis for making such a statement. Our only source of information, the Old Testament, clearly and unambiguously attributes the merit of founding monotheism to Abraham, not Moses. Nevertheless, this technicality does not diminish Moses' role. It can be stated with confidence that Jewish monotheism might have withered and disappeared entirely in the absence of Moses. Without a doubt, he played a crucial role in preserving this fragile belief system and transmitting it to future generations. Of course, herein lies his greatest historical importance. When we take into account that Christianity and Islam, the 2 largest religions in the world, have their deep roots in Jewish monotheism, the magnitude of Moses' legacy becomes clear. The revolutionary idea of a one true and exclusive God, a concept in which Moses believed passionately, was safeguarded by his leadership and eventually spread to encompass a good part of the globe.